The entire world will soon understand that nothing can stop what is coming. So in this video, we have to talk about what Trump has been posting over the years, a part of the QAnon movement, and also what he's just shared on his Truth Social right here. On top of that, a book saying that he will be the last president, and what's happening right now in the crypto market with this dump that's taking place across altcoins. We're going to look at the price chart. We're also going to talk about comparing multiple altcoins in the top 10, which ones have been performing good, which ones have been performing great over the past year, Bitcoin to the US dollar price chart and expectations over the next few weeks, XRP to the US dollar price chart and the likely scenario in the short term, and also a key indicator that has accurately predicted the top of Bitcoin the last 4 times, going all the way back to 2013. So if you guys have heard about the Great Awakening and you think that crypto has something to do with it, well, I will tell you what, this happens first, and we're going to talk about it in this video. So comment 777 if you're feeling blessed, if you're feeling bullish, and if you're going to become the first millionaire or billionaire in your family tree. Confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So the market's been getting hit over the past 24 to 48 hours. And if we just pull up coinmarketcap.com, we can see that a lot of projects over the past 7 days are down 5, 10, 15%, nothing too crazy. So what we need to talk about in this video is what's happening on the price chart. And before I do, I want to invite you guys to our Discord community. We have about 319 members in there. And also I posted in Discord about Polygon underneath 25 cents right about here before this news dropped and this massive breakout just took place on Polygon. And also I just made another post in the group about what's going to happen next for Polygon in the short term that you do not want to miss. So if you guys missed this post in Discord, well, you missed a lot of money, which is fine. I get it. You might be lazy. You don't want to make money. You just want to listen to these videos, but the Discord is for the people that want to make money and that want to network connect with other members in our community that are also making money, longing the market and shorting the market. So you do not want to miss what I just posted. Go in that group right now and you'll see what's about to happen next for Polygon in the short term. It's free to join, and we're going to have some other announcements in this group over the next 30 days. There's only 300 people. So out of, that last video, it got about 27,000 views. The previous one got 13,000 views. It's pretty crazy how only 300 people joined the group. And you could have caught this breakout here from just shy of 25 cents to about 29 cents, up 17%. And had you longed that trade, well, you could have made multiples on that position with leverage. Now, obviously, leverage can be risky if you don't know what you're doing. So that's why we created the Technical Analysis Essentials course inside of Altcoin Pro University. You guys can check that out below. Click the link, go into the classroom, watch all of these videos, and separate yourself from the 99% of people who just watch these videos and don't take any action, like 27,000 people, minus the 300 who are actually action takers that decide to join this group. Even less are going to be committed to actually developing professional skills to separate themselves from the majority that lose money in these markets. And that's just the way that it is. But you can't argue with the numbers. You can't fight them. You just have to understand them so that way you can get wealthy, because people, they want wealth, but they don't want to do what it takes to accumulate wealth. And what did they need to do? They need to work on this, their mindset. They need to work on their skill set. And it's a sad reality. People don't want to. I mean, it's Friday, Saturday night. So the last thing that anyone was going to do is join a group that will actually make them money. The main thing that they wanted to do was go out and get drunk and, wake up with a hangover and not make money. So it is what it is. But you're here to make money. And if you're not, get off this video, because I'm going to share with you guys some powerful information that I can see happening on the charts. Because looking at Bitcoin's dominance right now, Bitcoin's dominance has been breaking down from 66%. We're currently at 58%. There's bound to be a bounce at some point, and Bitcoin is bound to see a recovery, because we can see this bullish divergence happening right now on the price chart compared to the relative strength index. And as you guys have seen in my previous videos, a bullish divergence is when the price chart makes a lower low, but the relative strength index makes a higher low, showing that momentum is slowing down from bearish momentum to eventually bullish momentum. So we should see a bounce for Bitcoin at some point in a rotation from altcoins and stablecoins over to Bitcoin. And I brought up Tether's market cap dominance as well too, and I'll bring it up for you guys again. So you can see this on the 4-hour chart, because Tether's market cap dominance is forming a bearish divergence, where on the 4-hour, where you can see the relative strength index forming lower highs and the Tether's dominance chart forming higher highs. So, maybe we have another little bit of a low right here with this flush out for Bitcoin's dominance to come down closer to this support that it was at on the 3rd of January, 2025, and then by the end of January, and even all the way back here, before we see that bounce, while Tether's dominance rallies up to this ascending resistance right here and then gets rejected from it. We'll see, but nonetheless, momentum should eventually start slowing down from Tether's dominance, and we should see a rotation from Tether's dominance over to Bitcoin. Now, it's interesting because this post right here from Benjamin Cowan, he talks a lot about Bitcoin dominance, and he says the reason Bitcoin's dominance is likely going to find a low soon, plenty of lows for dominance in September, and start going back up is because there are only 3 outcomes for the price of Bitcoin, and all 3 outcomes historically tend to lead to dominance going higher. Well, number 1 would be if Bitcoin bounces off the 20-week SMA and heads higher, then Bitcoin leads the bull market and dominance goes up. If you see what happened back in 2017, you can see in red right here the 20-week SMA, and you can see during the bull market, Bitcoin respected the 20-week SMA and bounced off of it multiple times before deviating from it to go absolutely parabolic to the all-time high. And if we go to where we're at right now, even back from 2020, you can see Bitcoin respected the 20-week SMA and bounced off of it. It did break below it on the 10th of May and then reclaimed it and then bounced off of it for the all-time high. And then in the bear market, we traded below it. And so what's been happening recently for this bull run cycle is Bitcoin hasn't stayed above it these last 2 times here. So this is a very critical moment for Bitcoin. If it's going to do what it did back here from the 3rd of March until the 21st of April, and also the 24th of June until the 16th of September and trade below it, or if we're going to see a much needed bounce from this 20-week SMA to the upside, because to the downside, the 50-week SMA is right here at about $95,000. Now, if Bitcoin were to sell off to that, it would trend a little bit higher and it would intersect with it if we see a sell-off further to the downside for Bitcoin, most likely coming in contact with, about $100,000 where this support would be the next stop to the downside before a bounce for Bitcoin. So if we don't see that bounce for Bitcoin and Bitcoin continuously bleeds out, well, it still could mean that Bitcoin's dominance bounces, because it would just mean that altcoins would bleed out more relative to Bitcoin bouncing. So if Bitcoin does not hold the 20-week SMA and drops to the 50-week SMA, like in Q3 of 2024 and Q1 of 2025, then altcoins will get rinsed, as they would then be concerned for the health of bull market and everyone would start panicking. In that case, a 10% drop on Bitcoin would be a 30% plus drop for most alts, is what Ben is saying. Now, number 3, if Bitcoin just sits at the 20-week SMA for all of September, like in 2020, then alts will slowly bleed out to Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance goes up. So Bitcoin's dominance could go sideways, altcoins go down. That means Bitcoin's dominance goes up. Bitcoin's dominance could go up if Bitcoin's going down, but altcoins are going down faster. And also Bitcoin's dominance could go up if Bitcoin goes up and altcoins go up, but altcoins go up slower to Bitcoin, or altcoins go sideways, Bitcoin goes up. So there's a few different scenarios that could cause Bitcoin's dominance to go up. And number 3 might be a likely scenario. So basically, no matter the direction of Bitcoin to the US dollar, Bitcoin's dominance will likely find a low extremely soon and start heading higher. And he thinks we're about to kick off the final rotation into Bitcoin for this market cycle. And if we look at Bitcoin right now on the daily chart, we can see this bearish divergence here with a higher high on the price chart, the 3rd higher high on the price chart, and then also we see a lower high on the relative strength index. And Bitcoin broke below this key support right here at about $112,000. It came back up to backtest and it got rejected from it. So the likely scenario is actually for Bitcoin to continue a little bit lower and for altcoins to get hit. And if we bring up total 2 right here on the right-hand side of the screen, that would mean that altcoins would get hit as well too. And as you can see, altcoins are pulling back from $1.58 trillion to $1.55, coming in contact with this very key ascending support right here. So if we break below this, well, then altcoins could drop further to the downside back to $1.5 trillion, wiping off billions of dollars. And so what we would want to look for here in order to see a bounce for altcoins and for Bitcoin is for some type of bullish divergence to take place for the bottom to be in for Bitcoin in this falling wedge formation. And so in this falling wedge right here, we would need to see Bitcoin show a higher low on the relative strength index and a lower low on the price chart. So as we continue in this downtrend, we just need to watch the relative strength index. So right now the RSI is at 37. We're seeing the RSI put in lower lows along with the price chart. So we're not seeing a bullish divergence set up here. And what a bullish divergence looks like is something like this, where the price chart continues lower, where we see these short-term temporary bounces forming lower highs and lower lows, and the relative strength index becomes oversold at a low that is a little bit higher than the lowest low. And then we see a bounce take place on the RSI and it forms a higher low when the price chart forms a lower low. It's just the opposite of a bearish divergence. And so we would need to see something like this take place. And it doesn't have to happen this way, right? When I give an example like this, it doesn't play out exactly to the T, but sometimes it's pretty close, you know? So for example, if I were to just minimize this and put it up on Bitcoin's chart right now, it could look something like this, where we see an aggressive shakeout to the downside and we see a massive sell-off for Bitcoin's not Bitcoin's dominance, but for Bitcoin in general, and it drops all the way down to like 105, maybe even lower, 101. You see how quickly these liquidations can take place to the downside, and Bitcoin sells off quickly, and then we see these massive buy-ups with these wicks to the downside. If that were to happen for Bitcoin on an aggressive candle, look at the RSI and watch for it to go into oversold territory below 30 and then get bought up relatively quick, and to see some aggressive V-shaped recovery for Bitcoin to do something along the lines of this, and then potentially continue lower and then break out for some type of bullish divergence to be forming on the price chart and the relative strength index to do something like this. This is what I would want to see to be more bullish on the crypto market and for altcoins. Otherwise, if I don't see this, then I would just expect Bitcoin to continuously bleed out in this falling wedge until we make some type of recovery and bounce back up to about $112,000. And so momentum is in favor of the bears right now. And if you check out what I just posted in Discord, it's confirming what's happening on Polygon's chart right now. And you guys could have made money by joining yesterday, but you're probably at the bar getting drunk, so you got to nurse your hangover before you're ready to make some money in these markets. So if we see that flesh out for Bitcoin and altcoins, then the most likely scenario would be Bitcoin's dominance sees another final low. The RSI and Bitcoin's dominance drops a little bit lower, and then we see the bounce take place because this divergence is setting up right now. And inevitably there will be a bounce here in the short term because we just don't go down forever. I called this move back here when Bitcoin's dominance went from the 21st of July back up to 62%, and how we were going to roll over because we are simply doing a drop, base, consolidate, drop. And now the opposite of that, once we see this rally take place, we're going to see a rally, consolidate, and then continuation to the downside as we see a great rotation into altcoins. This is what I would expect. Now we'll see how high up that rally is for Bitcoin's dominance. It could quite possibly come all the way back up here to about 60%. That's a possibility. It might even be lower than that. We shall see. But the key to understand here is this. When you're looking at a chart like this, which is total to the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin, you need to know what to look for. And you don't want to be buying into altcoins when we're in overbought conditions. For example, when we are making these recovery rallies, when you first can identify the trend and you see that we are in a downtrend since the 24th of August right here, well, you can clearly see that as we make these recovery rallies back into key zones of resistance, which are either descending resistance or horizontal resistances. For example, this is a point of confluence right here. You can see this was support on the 28th of August until the 29th of August. And so with the altcoin market making a recovery into this zone, also, it is a very strong descending resistance as well too. So that's an area of confluence where 2 points are intersecting. Plus, on top of that, you can see the relative strength index here rallied up to about 65, getting close to overbought conditions. It doesn't need to come all the way up here above 70 every time, but the closer we are to 70 or above 70, and when we are making an intersection with multiple points of confluence in terms of a resistance, that's not when you buy in. You want to buy in when you're seeing multiple points of confluence in the opposite direction, where the price is doing the exact opposite of a resistance. It's hitting support and we're in oversold conditions. Plus, you stack that with bullish divergences, then you're going to be an absolute monster. So with trading, you're going to be able to separate yourself from the 99%. So where would those areas of confluence be? Well, right here, you can see support support where the price came down and bounced off of it about $1.53 trillion. The next zone right here on the 30th of August within the same level, it respected it. And so we need to see if the altcoin market continuously bleeds out with Bitcoin, if it respects this zone. If it does not respect this zone and it consolidates at it for a bit and it goes below it, well, then we need to look further back in the past to the next zone, and then we see if it'll respect this zone down here. And until we see some type of bullish divergence on this price chart right here, the momentum is going to be in favor of the bears. And the only time that me personally, when I get more aggressively bullish in the market, is when I see that momentum shift and I see a trend change after confirming a bullish divergence on multiple time frames. And so what I would want to see is the RSI to find a low and experience a bounce. So I'm patient here. I'm going to be watching the price chart to find an inevitable low and find lower lows before we see a break and a bounce on out of here. And where that level will be does not matter, because I'm looking at the relative strength index and I'm watching for this bullish divergence with lower lows on the price chart. That's what I'm going to be looking for. And then I wait for a break of structure. So if I clear the price chart right here, well, what would a break of structure be? It'd be clearing of a previous resistance and holding it as support. So that would be up here at about $1.58 trillion. After we find the low, I would want to see something like this take place, an aggressive breakout and a back test before I get bullish. And after confirming some type of bullish divergence on the price chart before we see that happen, and it's still too early for that right now, we need to see this play out a little bit further right here. So there's likely more bleeding to the downside for altcoins. And since this video is probably going to come out after this trade has already played out anyways, here's Polygon compared to Ethereum and what happened with this bearish divergence, where we were breaking this ascending support at the same time that we were seeing this rejection right here from this descending resistance on total 2. And literally within less than an hour of me posting that, we broke to the downside. Now, sometimes the way that this plays out is these divergences take a little bit longer. We see like 4 higher highs or 5 higher highs. So what we wait for is a break of structure. The first break of structure would be a break below an ascending support. That's step 1. And then step number 2 would be breaking below a horizontal support. That's step 2. Step 3 would be a retracement, whether it be 50%, 60%, or 70% retracement based on the Fibonacci retracement tool. And that's the safest place to enter in. So for example, if I remove the drawings here, again, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to sell anything or buy anything. I'm just telling you what I see on the charts. Because when you see an uptrend like this and we're continuously making higher lows and we're making higher highs, and you're just watching the price chart and you're like, oh, I'm just going to buy into this, and we get all the way into overbought conditions on the relative strength index at the bottom of the screen, you need to look for divergences. For example, you can see the RSI forming lower highs. You can see the price chart forming higher highs, and it's quite possible that we could have continued up to form another higher high while the RSI formed this lower high right here. But the key to understand is this, is when we finally break structure and we clear key points of support right here, that's a massive reversal signal for a short for the price chart to go in the opposite direction and form some type of downtrend. And if we just play this out on the chart, that's now what's happening for Polygon. Now, that doesn't mean in the macro this project isn't going to do well, because as you guys can see, it just broke out from this range right here that it's been in since July of 2025. You can connect the highs right here and you can see this is a massive zone of support. So I'd actually expect it to come back in here within this zone and do something along the lines of this before we see a bounce potentially higher once we see altcoins make a recovery. And so this would be a strong zone of support and actually a really good back test for a potential long. So then we need to watch the relative strength index and watch for it to get into oversold conditions down here below 30, and then look for a bullish divergence to take place for the RSI to then be forming higher lows like this for a reversal back to the upside. That's what we need to look for. So I'm giving you guys the game here, and a lot of people, they sleep on this information because they just want to get hyped up about some news or about some crazy headline. So sometimes I'll put a crazy headline to get your attention. Then I teach you the game to actually help you become a millionaire, because I became a millionaire before 30 years old by understanding this information and studying it and practicing it. And now I'll be sharing these types of trades with you guys when they pop up in the Discord in the description below. Now, if we look on cryptobubbles.net, we can see over the past year, everything is virtually up. And some of the biggest performers, you can't obviously compare like something like Saros or SPX because these projects started with such a low market cap. So to do 18,000% starting from zero is not as hard as going from a few billion up 300%, like XRP up 391%, SUI up 307%, HBAR up 300%, and then a lot of other projects like Dogecoin up 100, Link up 100. And so the best performers right now are really XRP, SUI, HBAR, and now CRO has actually surged because of what Trump has done, with Trump Media Group announcing a $6.4 billion in funds to build America's Kronos treasury. So Trump's media group is expected to be the world's largest holder of CRO. So will we see their media group accumulate other projects like XRP or XLM? We will see, but this is really interesting here because Trump retweeted this post right here and also posted on Truth Social saying the world will soon understand nothing can stop what is coming. In one of his hands, it shows Q+. We're now seeing people share this all over Twitter, and even this guy right here, Kirill A. Dmitriev, he is a CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, special envoy of the President of Russia for investment and economic cooperation. And Governor Newsom's press office posted pretty much the same thing as well too. And Trump said, enjoy your Labor Day weekend, a big year ahead for the USA, maybe the best ever, if the tariffs are finally approved by the courts. So in my opinion, this is the final major shakeout before we inevitably go higher. And so this is where opportunity strikes. And when you can learn to look at the charts so you can spot when we're in oversold conditions, and then you look for divergences, you can get better entry points on the cryptos that you want to buy. Now there's this book, it's called The Last President. It was written by Ingersoll Lockwood in the late 1800s, and it said, actually I think it was written 1900 right here, and it talks about Trump being the last president. The book before then was called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and it was written in 1890, where Baron Trump had a mentor named Don, and he found a portal in Russia and experienced time travel. So could it be that Donald Trump is using time travel technology from Nikola Tesla's office when he inspected his building when it was burnt down? Where the most historically grounded part of this narrative involves Donald Trump's uncle, John G. Trump, a respected MIT electrical engineer. And so when Nikola Tesla died in his New York hotel room in January of 1943, federal agents from the Office of Alien Property seized his papers and effects. This was done out of concern that foreign enemies might gain access to his military-related research here. What was he working on? Especially his rumored design for a death ray. The review, the FBI called upon John G. Trump to analyze Tesla's documents. After a 3-day investigation, Dr. Trump declared that Tesla's later work was largely speculative and had no value for military weapons. So that's like him basically saying, I didn't see anything here. I didn't find anything. Hey guys, go hide the documents, hide the paperwork, right? So the conspiracy is this historical fact has fueled a lot of people to talk about how he stole Tesla's ideas for things like time travel, different technology, particularly regarding top secret weapons. However, there's no concrete evidence, of this obviously, because how would there be concrete evidence if they're going to hide it from everybody? And the time travel theory, so the connection here stems from these novels from Ingersoll Lockwood, where the book called The Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and his wonderful dog Bulger and Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. It's just too weird of a coincidence here that it was back in the late 1800s. And then the next book he comes out with is called The Last President. I mean, come on. And it talks about his mentor, Don, who lives on 5th Street in New York. Let's look at where Trump Tower is. Address. Trump Tower address. In New York. It's on 5th Avenue. And so in Ingersoll Lockwood's book, The Last President, which features a mob targeting a hotel on 5th Avenue and includes themes and characters such as a politician named Pence that had been compared to the presidency of Donald Trump. These coincidences are just too strange. And so, what are your guys' thoughts about time travel? Do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? Either way, how Trump is pulling off what he's pulling off right now, and then been sharing this on these forums as Q+, and now posting about it, saying, welcome to the mainstream. We knew this day would come back in 2018, and people referencing these back to the past. It's almost as if he traveled back to 2018 and today and was posting back then about what's happening right now. So he's speaking a lot of riddles here as well too, and depending on what timeline or what year this was referencing back in 2017, there's a group of people that are decoding this. So I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this in the description description below. Nonetheless, I think a great awakening is coming to the United States of America. People are starting to wake up. And if you didn't watch my video yesterday, talking about universal high income right here and a supernatural crypto wealth transfer and the creation of the Federal Reserve and the transition from the Fed to what's happening right now with cryptocurrencies, you definitely want to check that out next, because it pretty much confirms everything that we've thought thus far and what's about to happen next. Now, when we do finally see that bounce in Bitcoin back to the upside and altcoins, you guys better be ready, because there's going to be some incredible opportunities and we're going to share them with you inside of the Discord, inside of Altcoin Pro, with our research team that has been calling some of the biggest projects before they've absolutely exploded. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees, because crypto is definitely risky, guys, this is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now. Watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.